So again, thank you everyone for joining into our Recipes for Success series. We're very, very excited to have with us today a guest who is a culinary icon whose talent has left a lasting impression on people across the globe. Over his long and distinguished career, he has combined cuisines worldwide with grace and ease. He has worked with various luxury, culinary, and hospitality brands across the globe and is famed for his constant devotion to quality and rising the standard of eating and food, having been featured in India's 40 Chefs Under 40 and the recipient of the Chef of the Year 2023. Please join us in welcoming the one and only Chef Abhishek Gupta. Thank you so much for joining us, Chef.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me, in fact.
We're very grateful. I thought at the onset we could just begin with your journey itself. You've also pivoted careers in your journey of becoming a chef. So, where did your calling in the kitchen come from, and sort of when did you realize it is something you wanted to pursue professionally against everything else that you were also exploring?
Let me just start by saying that I never wanted to be a chef. This is actually not something that I'd always dreamt of, just like any other chef in the world would probably have a very clear vision. I was actually interested more in designing. I was interested in both fashion as well as interior designing. That was something that I always wanted to do back in the days when I was growing up and I was willing to choose a career for myself. So that was something that came up to me through my travel actually, and I appeared for my fashion courses, my interior courses, but apparently it could not sail through. And then one fine day, when I was visiting one of the colleges of hospitality management, and I saw what the kids were doing back then, and I felt it was really interesting to pick up as a core subject. And that is when I picked up my hospitality journey, realizing that it may or may not um, move ahead as taught in the colleges. But that's how life is, and it just happens by chance.
So, and one thing, of course, anyone who's probably seen your page or seen your work can realize now that they know this is that you've used your passion for design greatly in your food as well. And we have our founder, Mr. Rishabh Shah, who's joined us on the live. So he's also just telling hello to you.
Hello, hello,
I
hi.
just wanted to, yeah. Um, so, like I was saying, I think we can see a large part of your passion for design in your food. So, how have you sort of used that passion for design in your food as well?
I think over the years, what has happened is that I've got the opportunity to travel within our beautiful country and as well as internationally as well. So that is something that has quite inspired me in collaborating my travel memories back to my food on the plate willingly, and also something that I have always thought that what I bring onto the table along with my travel journeys is something that what my guests would like to have. So it was never a deliberate attempt to bring in my design passion into my food. But yes, I have understood that after traveling across 17 odd countries in my life till now, and more to count, and also after working for so many restaurants, that design plays a very important role in food, be it comfort food, be it modern plated food, be it gastronomical experiences in the restaurant. I think design plays not only an importance in the food, but also in the restaurant, in the ambience, in the menus, into the table design, into lighting, into interiors, the entire ambience. So design per se is integrated into our daily lives by default. It is just that you have to start to look at design into such detailing that your food is not left behind. Of course, food has to be the hero, but if you can integrate design along with that, I think it just takes a little notch higher, the experience part of it.
True. I think for a lot of us, the concept of aesthetic in food comes from watching reality shows and learning how to plate food. But like you said, I think the aesthetic goes much beyond the room design, the plate design, and so much more. But just picking on from one thing you said earlier of how you've traveled across the country and also globally, and how that's influenced your idea of food. What are some of the lesser known Indian cuisines that you've worked with and sort of made them? And what you do is you take dishes and you create luxe versions of them as well. So, are there any lesser known cuisines that you've worked with that you could share with us today?
See, for me, lessons on cuisine comes from three important things that one must have. One must possess great knowledge. He or she, when working in a kitchen environment, in an atmosphere, must continue to upgrade his or her knowledge, whether it is about Indian cuisine or it is about any other global cuisine across the world. Knowledge is something that has to be continuously upgraded, and there is no end to it, right? We have so many wonderful books written by so many chefs in the industry over the last so many decades. So knowledge is something that one must hold very strongly. Then while working in a kitchen, I think skills is something that one must continue to hone. It is something again is not to be learned in a year or a two. It is a lifelong process. And third is the attitude from which you look at your own food. So, from a lesson point of view, I think every year as I age and every year as I learn more, I have felt that knowledge, skills, and attitude, three important attributes, is something, those are the most important lessons in a cuisine. Now, you may learn a recipe here and there. You may learn a cooking technique here and there while you are traveling or working in a domestic kitchen or working with an international chef. But hey, understand the crux of it. You know, what is the crux of it? It is the knowledge that is talking. Today, I may work with a Japanese chef and I learn some knife cutting skills from a Japanese chef or understanding how a local fish is picked up in the fresh market early morning, correct? That happens in our east part of India as well. You
Correct.
go to Bengal, you know, people pick up fresh fish from the market. It happens in Bombay, right? It happens in Kerala, right? So what is happening? People are trying to adapt skills. People are trying to take knowledge from whom they meet, whom they work day in day out. But don't you think the foundation comes back to the same wheel? That have good knowledge, get skills, have a good attitude towards learning the knowledge and skills. So I think my biggest lesson till date is that continue to gain knowledge, continue to gather skills, and have an open attitude to keep learning new things. So you need to work like a sponge. Once you feel you know it all, that is when you need to squeeze yourself, shake your mind up, and say, I don't know anything at all. I'm still learning. So keep gathering more and more knowledge and skills. I think that is the biggest cuisine lesson that I've got.
I think that's wonderful. And to just summarize the three keywords again for everyone, to constantly pursue knowledge and skill, and then to have the right attitude to absorb that knowledge and skill while you're at it. I think you said that very beautifully, and how, when you said when you reach that point where you think you've learned it all, you become a sponge and you squeeze it all out and restart the process. But one skill that, of course, that you've had to pick up along your journey is leadership. You've served in some very high positions across not only kitchens but hospitality chains itself. So you've overseen a lot more than just food. You've made food an experience, and you sort of look at it from a macro scale as well. So, for all the aspiring chefs and restaurateurs watching this, many of them who are live right now, what are sort of the leadership lessons you've learned across your journey in kitchens?
See, my leadership lessons are many. You know, I think every day for me is so important to communicate what I really feel inside my heart and mind to my entire team. You know, at the Leela Ambience Gurugram, I have a humongous, huge team who actually ensures that we are able to deliver a standards what we are delivering today and keep the expectations top high. So the most important part of leadership for me is communication. You know, if I'm able to communicate well, if I'm able to communicate and close and make them understand what is expected out of them and what is expected out of me and what is expected out of the brand, first and foremost, you know, the values of the brand. If I'm able to communicate that well, I think that is the first and foremost leadership lesson that one can actually correct and consistently deliver. What happens is you want something, but you're not able to convey that message in either of the forms to different levels of team members that you have. Some are freshers from the college, some are experienced in their industry, some are in between their journey. They're trying to achieve something in life, but at the same time, how do you integrate these different genres of experienced people, right? That is the most important thing. So the art of communication is something that is very important. I have learned over and over period of years that I think if you're able to communicate well, spend time with your team, and make them understand what is expected out of them, you really don't have to tell them the methodology. They have enough or more experience. Either they will have passion or energy because they're freshers, they want to learn a new skill, or people are really experienced and they say, I know it all, but okay, this is what is expected out of me. But communication is important in order to achieve a common goal. So that is the most important leadership lesson that I feel is important in any leader. And in today's world, when you see a lot of leaders, not only being chefs or any other subject matter experts in the world globally, they're great communicators,
Correct.
right? They're able to convey the message what they really want, and then rest follows through. Of course, there is entire process of how, when, what, where, why, but the most important is why. Why do you want to achieve something? So my leadership lesson, I think, is communication.
Lovely. And I agree with everyone in the chat section who said there was no better way to sort of narrate the importance of the art of communication. We, of course, hear about it everywhere that, you need to communicate effectively. But I think the way you put it, um, to make it effective enough that everybody in the team understands what the vision is, the why more than the how, I think that is a lesson for all of us to take away from here. But just pushing on that question of why and also the how, when you sort of bring up new cuisines and you in the adaptability of new cuisines, I come from a generation known as Gen Z, and we have a very picky palate. We're not famous for eating our veggies or finishing our fruits or being open to new experiences in terms of food. So how do you sort of balance the process of modernization in foods, but also making it palatable and also keeping it authentic to its roots? So how do you sort of create this balance in your dishes? Because food is something very cultural and very emotionally attached as well. So how do you sort of create that balance?
That's a very good question. First for me is important is the taste of the food. Rest everything is secondary. You go to a street food vendor, you eat a pav bhaji or a dosa, you eat a momos. What do you want? You want taste, right? You
Correct.
don't want the presentation. You don't want anything at all. You want the pav bhaji to be excellent. Okay, the pav are buttery, the veggies are fantastic, yum. The momos are spicy, chutney is hot. You want the food to be tasty. That is the fundamental rule of food, irrespective of wherever you are cooking, irrespective of whichever country you are cooking, whatever recipe you are cooking, the basic importance is taste. And that is why guests and customers come to your restaurant or hotels, that they want good, yummy, tasty food. Second thing comes in, how does it look? Okay, is it well presented? That means the food looks nice. If it is hot, it is hot. Cold is cold. Does it have a little garnish? Does it have little color presentation? Right? It is. Does the plate is enough to hold the food, or it is the bowl is big enough? I'm just talking very basic, right? So food is yummy, food is presentable, then food is right, as at the right temperature. So if you have ordered a hot food, it should be hot, piping hot per se. If it is cold, it should be cold, right? You will never pick up a gelato which is melted, right? You would want a gelato which is frozen, right?
Correct.
So it should be tasty, it should look nice, it should be at the right temperature, and then eventually, combination of that together is called an experience. Okay, that's what I have learned. That is the combination called as experience. Now, there is a space in every hotel, there is a space in every restaurant where you would have comfort food. When you go to an Indian restaurant, you go that you really want to have a good dal, you want to have that garlic naan, or you want to have a good biryani. When you go to a little experiential restaurant, you want to have a little fun with your food,
Correct.
right? You want to play with your food. You want the music to be really nice. You don't mind experimentation with your presentation, and you want to have fun and you want to enjoy. That is where that segment of food comes into play. That yeah, it's a restaurant where I can have some fun with my food, right? Uh, and then comes a place where you really want to, have a fantastic moment, an aha moment that this is not what I've seen before, I have eaten in somewhere. That is where gastronomy comes, where
Mm.
you're willing to take an experiment and you're not compromising on anything, but hey, it's an entertainment. Food is
Right.
like entertainment, right? So I feel there is a different space for every kind of food in every hotel or every restaurant. We should not land up by mixing all of that. Today, when I
True.
have guests in my restaurant, which is Spectra All Day Dining Restaurant, people come for brunch. People do not come for entertainment there. People come to have good music, good time, have good food, have comfort food, right? So there has to be good sashimi, good sushi, good teppanyaki, good dim sums. People have to have a good biryani, good dal, some great innovation around desserts. But when people go to an Italian restaurant, I have an Italian restaurant on the sixth floor, right? And I've worked in a lot of other Italian restaurants as well. People go there to enjoy and elevate their experience.
Mm.
It's like you going to a movie, the movie is the same, but why do you go to an expensive 7 Dolby digital theater, right? To build up on your experience.
Correct.
Same happens in a chef's journey as well, that you should not mix modernization with authenticity or ethnicity. You should keep the way things are, but there is a place for everything. So
Mm.
if you're in the right space, if you're in the right place, and if your diners are expecting that sort of entertainment from you, your food should then change. But if you're into a space where your diners are expecting good, tasty, delicious food, whether it is cooked to order or it is on the buffet or it is on any other form, then you should stick to that. So you should not mix two genres. They are like different genres. So I think that is what I feel.
Again, I think that was so wonderfully put, and you explained that in such a visual manner. Like when you were talking of each of those levels, I was just thinking of like a chocolate dessert, how you have normal chocolates and you have the experiential, those chocolate domes that you break and then you eat, and all of those. So thank you for taking us through that journey. And I agree with a few of the comments. You made us all really hungry with all of those examples. So I think all of us are rushing to have a snack right after this. Um, but my next question comes to sort of how the whole advent of social media and digitization has impacted chefs, and especially aspiring chefs. Of course, while building a restaurant or while building your own path, you build your own personal brand. But now social media has become sort of this catalyst in that process. So, what are sort of some um, tips or advice you want to give to aspiring chefs to build their brand online, because it is a major part of what they do. So you've of course built a great platform for yourself. So what is something you would like to tell to all of those aspiring to do that as well?
Okay, you may not like what I say, but that's how it is. That's the reality. Uh, you should not focus on building a brand. You should you should fall in love with the food, right? Whether it is in the restaurant or it is on social media or it is whatever, you should fall in love with food. If that is the profession that you wish to take all your life, because you like wearing a chef jacket, right? And you like being in the kitchen, whether it is a restaurant kitchen or a hotel kitchen or chef as a profession, whatever genre, right? But fall in love with the food. Do not see, social media is important, but what is more important is what you gain out of it. It is
Correct.
important what you take back when you switch off your phone and what kind of content do you watch. I'll give you an example. If you follow 100 food chains of the world on your Instagram, you will have food coma. You will only keep seeing food because there are enough and more content being put up. But what
Correct.
is the need of your social media? You just want to scroll up the screen, or you really want to adapt and learn because you can't travel to Spain or you can't travel to Italy, but you really want to understand what the chef is doing in that part of the world. So for me, social media for me is responsibility. If I do not treat it well, it will never treat me back well. Okay, I am still a book lover than a social media lover. Of course, social media is importance, but it cannot overtake your learnings that you have learned 20 years back from books. Because when a
Correct.
book is written, it is well researched, right? You have citations, you have authors, you have a lot of research where people collate a lot of data, and that is when a book is formed.
Correct.
So for me, book is always a winner compared to social media. But social media is also important because it is happening in the moment. It is live. You can see that thing. But what is that you wish to take from that moment is important. So
True.
for all the aspiring chefs, I feel because I have seen, sorry, because I see there is a transition that has happened in the learning system, in the learning way, with AI and all of the artificial intelligence coming into play, that people have moved away from books and their focus is only social media. I
Mm.
completely disagree there. It should be a balance of both, because, like I first said in the first or second question, that knowledge is the first most important thing that will sail you through.
Yeah.
Knowledge will help you build your own brand. Building a brand about yourself or building a brand for the organization doesn't happen overnight, right?
Correct.
Today, I work in a luxury brand. It did not happen overnight, right? So, from a chef's perspective, also, you fall in love with the food. You talk about the food, talk about cuisines, talk about recipes, talk about culture, talk about arts, talk about your travel memories, and just do that. And rest will take care of its own. But if you're only focusing on building a brand, then you're moving away with your sole purpose.
Mm.
As an entrepreneur, you will focus on building a brand more because you're an entrepreneur. But if you're a professional chef and you're working for an organization and you're working for yourself per se also, what is your primary goal? Primary goal is that your guests and diners should appreciate your food. So your main focus has to be food. It cannot go away from that. So brand building for me will always come second. Um, and the first thing for me is that, am I learning enough? And am I cooking enough? Is my team able to deliver the vision that we together collectively hold? And are the diners enjoying our quality of food? And then
True.
rest is secondary. I mean, uh, you should just focus on the core job that you have assigned for yourself. Nobody has asked you to become a chef, but you chose this profession yourself. So
Correct.
just focus on cooking, right? It's like an actor. Actor doesn't focus on building up a brand. Actor just focuses on acting in a movie. And
True.
if you are 100% soaked in good food day in, day out, and rest everything will follow.
True. I think the lesson there was if you actually put in the effort and you have the expertise, that itself will speak for itself, and you don't sort of need to go behind the whole concept of building a brand because it'll happen more organically. And I think what you said overall was also so beautiful in terms of just prioritizing the food and prioritizing your experience and relationship with food itself. Before we move to our last, more fun rapid fire segment, I had one last question for you, which was, first of all, I mean, you've already given us so many tips and tricks for every aspiring chef there is. But if you could look back on your journey and sort of trace the ingredients to the recipe that of your success, what would those ingredients be?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. Uh, I think the main ingredients, first of all, there is no correct recipe of success. Everybody will have its own journey and everybody would have its own uniqueness to it. But for me, like I said, it's about gathering a lot of knowledge. I'm hungry for knowledge even today. I like to read books. I like to study a lot. If I don't know a particular subject, I will go in depth of that subject and I will study before I am talking to somebody, right? Like for example, I have not worked in the south of India, right? But I pretty much know the culture and the cuisine of that space.
Correct.
So if I have a companion with me, if I'm a team member who is from that region, I would like to understand from him that what ingredient grows there in that part of our country. How do you cook? Why do you cook like that? Why do you put tarka with curry leaf only? Why do you use mustard seeds? Why do you use a bedgi chili? And why not Rajasthani mathania chili? Then he would come back and explain me that bedगी चिली के अंदर का जो स्पाइस है उससे हमको ये benefit होता है. There is enough and more coconut into our region and hence we land up using coconut. So what I'm trying to say is that the essence is in the learning of that food, understanding that where it started from. You can learn through books, you can refer to senior chefs, you can ask each other. So it is about gathering an information. I think that is very much important. And then when you cook it yourself, do you really enjoy the taste? Now you can always say this is ideally supposed to be sour, it has to be thin or thick. Those are fantastic things to do. But when you drive a car, there is no textbook for that. You're driving
Correct.
the car by yourself, right? Same happens to us all the time. Even today, when I'm tasting my food, if my palate tells me that it should be slightly less spicy, I will make it less spicy. But if I feel that I'm able to control the heat and आके मुझे बहुत ज्यादा स्पाइसी तीखा नहीं लगा बट अच्छा लगा मुझे इतना तीखापन अच्छा है खाने में तो मुझे लगता है मेरे गेस्टों को भी वो चीज़ अच्छी लगेगी right? So we keep it like that. So for me, it has always been about tasting food, learning about that particular dish or a recipe through and through, and also what is happening globally. I always keep a close watch on what the world is doing because we are developing at a very fast pace. Our
Correct.
youth is fantastic. They are able to collaborate and bring together things that probably 10 years back, if I would have had the access to, I would have probably done something else. So it is about what the youth is doing, what the world is doing, and how can you bridge all of these things together. So our journey as chefs is moving very fast paced, like I said, because of social media and the world is traveling much better way than it used to do 10 years back. But then again, it's about mixing it in the right way that what's happening in New
Lovely.
York City, what's happening in Australia, what's happening in India, what's happening in Kolkata. If you see our own cities, we are booming in the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry. There is tremendous innovation and creativity happening with our own food. So you have to keep up the trends alive and you have to cope up with them. You have to see what's happening. So I think for me, a recipe for success is, of course, the hard work part of it. Then it is about your own zeal, how badly you want it. Um, and thirdly, are you happy with that? If you're not happy and if you're just busy trying to achieve something, then it has no purpose for it. So you need to have a purpose in your life that are you happy with what you're doing? And if the answer is yes, that you're happy, then I think the recipe itself adapts itself and the rest will follow.
I think you said that very beautifully again, where I think it all boils down to whether you're happy with what you're doing and sort of, I think that is the major driving force with anything.
Yeah,
And
food will always be good if you're happy, right? If
right.
you're unhappy what you're doing, how will you be able to cook good food?
I think the special ingredient has always been love when it comes to food, whether it's at home or anywhere. I think we've always been told this. I can't cook, but I love to eat. And anyone who's ever cooked that food has told me the special ingredient has been love.
Yeah.
So I think it boils down to what you said, and I think you put it very beautifully. So thank you for that. Before we let you go, we do this small lighthearted segment in the end called the rapid fire. So I'll read out a bunch of phrases, and you can tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay, I will try. I'm very bad at that, but I will
No,
try.
no worries. The first one is home,
It's New Delhi.
New Delhi. I think this one feeds right into it. Street food,
Street food for me is pav bhaji.
pav bhaji. The next one is your team,
Very hardworking.
very hardworking. The next one is your comfort food,
Anything at home.
anything at home. A book you would recommend every aspiring chef reads.
Read as many books as you can. There is no limit to it. There is no single book. Read as many books as you can.
Lovely. The next one is youth,
Energy,
energy. India,
versatile.
versatile. And the last one is what comes to mind when I say IIMUN.
I think fantastic platform and visionary visionary platform.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everything you've shared with us today. I think if I could sum it up, I think you started off by telling us about how you should work on your knowledge and your skill sets and how you should have the right attitude to adopt them like a sponge. You spoke about the art of communication and how building your brand should be secondary to knowledge and skill. And of course, it boils down to loving the food you make and being happy with the food you make and keeping it all about the food. So thank you so much for taking us back to thinking about food in such a passionate way. I think all of us had a very visionary experience also with you talking about your experience with food and how you understand different genres of food. And I'm sure, like someone in the chat just said, we're going to go grab our pav bhajis right now. So thank you so much for joining us, Chef. It's been absolutely lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And before I say adios, I think just one last thing I would like to add on that as Indians and as the youth and as the I.I.M.U.N community, let's keep the flag of Indian food flying really, really high because we deserve every accolade and applaud for our own cuisine. And as the youth torchbearers, I think talk about our Indian food in the most versatile way if we can and we must. From east to west to north to south and to the central part of India, every state of our country has tremendous Indian food that it has to offer. So, if I can just urge all my friends whom I've never met on this platform, but to talk about Indian food and keep the flag flying really high for our own country and our own food. So that is something that I would request everybody to keep talking about whenever they travel across the world. Keep talking about Indian food because it is just amazing and it's super delicious.
Thank you so much for that. And we try in the 35 countries where we do conferences, whether it's in Uruguay or in Japan, we make it a point to serve Indian vegetarian food at our conferences so that even the local people there get an idea of what Indian cuisine is all about. And like you said, we'll just keep making that effort going forward as well and take the Indian food and the Indian flag to greater heights. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us. And thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much,
leaving us
guys.
with that one last bit of advice as well. We're very grateful. Thank
Thank
you so much.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.